This is the Capitol Rundown.
Every single Michigander should be able to count on a free public education from pre-K through community college.
Governors love to give state-of-the-state messages for one major reason. They get to control the content of the entire speech.
Prices of gasoline, groceries, it's all due to this spending in Washington, D.C. that needs to stop.
It's all straight ahead. The Capitol Rundown starts now.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Siobhan Klepfer. From Lansing to Washington, D.C., it was a full week for Michigan politics, so let's get you caught up. And we begin with Governor Gretchen Whitmer laying out her vision for this coming year in the annual State of the State address on Wednesday. The governor began the speech by talking about the accomplishments of the past year.
From axing the retirement tax and free school meals to the Michigan Achievement Scholarship and Reconnect, which lower the cost of college by thousands, to programs like TriShare that slashed the cost of childcare by 66%. We are taking action.
Governor Whitmer's plans for the future include more infrastructure improvements, a statewide rebate of up to $2,500 on new car purchases, a $1.4 billion investment in new and refurbished homes to lower housing costs, universal pre-K education starting at age 4, and 2 years of tuition-free community college for all high school graduates.
We are broadening our vision of education beyond K through 12. Every single Michigander should be able to count on a free public education from pre-K through community college. That's the Michigan guarantee. Let's get it done.
Following the governor's speech, lawmakers from both sides of the aisle gave their reactions. Republicans were not as enthusiastic as the governor on the past year or the outlook for the future. Republican Senator Eric Nesbitt of Michigan's 20th District, which covers parts of Kent, Berrien, Allegan, and Van Buren counties, says funding the governor's plans, that will be a problem, and he says it has been in the past.
If she maxes out the credit card, increases bonded debt, and tries to do one-year funding programs. Remember, her free lunch that she talks about at every media stop, there's no permanency to it. That's a 1 year. They only funded that for 1 year. How do you fund it for next year? How do you fund it for the year after? Same with the housing, one-off. So any of these stuff is that she seems to be loading up on these promises without any, and then leaving the bill to the next legislature and the next governor, whoever funds it.
But according to Democrats in the legislature, funding and budgets are not going to be the roadblocks that Republicans say they will be.
Well, that's one of the things that we saw last year. There was obviously bold proposals that went forward. We had bipartisan support in the budget. We were able to make significant increases in a lot of things. We were able to pay for it. At the same time, bring down debt and put money into the rainy day fund. I think you'll see the same thing here in the budget. Obviously, the governor will present the budget in a couple weeks, but I think it'll be a bipartisan budget again.
And State Senator Sarah Anthony plays a major role in the budget negotiations.
We have to be fiscally responsible, but I think that we can do both. We can chew gum and walk. That's what my mama taught me to do. We can both deliver for real people and address the needs of our citizens, but we can do so in a fiscally responsible way. But that's going to require us actually digging into the budget and making sure we can afford to do these transformational things. So that's literally my job. So I'm excited to do it this year.
To listen to the full State of the State speech and get more reaction from both sides, visit WLNS.com. And after the break, expert analysis of that address from our Capitol correspondent Tim Skubic. Plus, who is in control of the Michigan GOP? It's more complicated than you might think. Stay with us. Welcome back. The question of who exactly is the chairperson of the Michigan Republican Party continues to be a complicated one, but we might be closer to an answer. Our Capitol correspondent Tim Skubic spoke with the Rundown's Jorma Duran about that and the state of the state.
It's time to get updated politically here in the state of Michigan, and nobody better than this guy right here, Tim Skubic, to help us out. Tim, Governor Whitmer gave her 6th State of the State address on Wednesday. Was there anything unexpected from her, and what did you make of her plan for the future?
Well, governors love to give state-of-the-state messages for one major reason. They get to control the content of the entire speech. They don't have guys like me sitting there picking away at it. Basically, the heart and the real meat of this speech had to do with tax credits and tax breaks for individual groups. For example, if you're a caretaker, you've got somebody that you're taking care of at home, she proposes $5,000 in a tax credit. Now, the Republicans basically sat on their hands, didn't applaud for any of this stuff because the Republicans legislatively have a different agenda, which is not targeted tax breaks for everybody, but a tax break for everybody. And so you have this kind of philosophical battle going back and forth. The governor set the agenda. Lawmakers will now act on it, and we'll talk over the coming months just to see how they're doing.
Let's now talk about Michigan Republicans because there's some clarity we need. There was the attorneys for the National Republican Committee said that Kristina Karamo was properly removed, but Pete Hoekstra thinks he's in charge. What's going on?
How much time you got?
Yeah.
This mess that the Republican Party is in, it looks like, if you look far down the horizon, it's headed towards a resolution. And what happened this week is the Republican National Committee, based in Washington, said on their preliminary examination that she was dutifully removed as chairperson of the party earlier in January. It's not a final decision. They did not say that Pete Hoekstra is going to be the new chair. He basically thinks he's sitting pretty in a good position with the RNC about to say that he is the chair, and that should end the debate, but this could end up in the courts because she's not going to take it lying down. So there may be other chapters to be written, but the end to this story is in sight. Mr. Hoekstra has already been in contact with the major donors of the party so that they start to open their checkbooks and rejuvenate a Republican Party which has been bankrupt, a lot of people say.
Wow. Well, it's always good to hear and see you. We appreciate it.
Have a good weekend, buddy.
You too.
And Jorma, Tim, thank you to you both. Coming up, we'll have the first part of our interview with Congressman John Moolenaar. He is once again running to represent Michigan in Congress. That and much more still ahead on the Capitol Rundown. Welcome back. United States Congressman John Moolenaar represents Michigan's 2nd District and recently announced his re-election campaign. He sat down with the Rundown's Jorma Duran to talk about why he thinks he should be sent back to Capitol Hill for another term.
Thanks for being here. Let's talk about it. Why are you running for another term?
Well, I value the opportunity to serve. It's a great district. We live in a great country and want to continue to help get our country back on the right track.
The district's bigger now.
It is. I started in a 15-county district, was the 4th district. Now it's the 2nd congressional district with redistricting, and it's 20 counties. So it's a large geographic area, a lot of agriculture, some great lakes, tourism, small businesses, tremendous district.
Well, you talked a little bit earlier about getting the country back on the right track. What are we doing wrong?
Well, first of all, people are having trouble making ends meet. Their paychecks aren't going as far as they used to. Prices of gasoline, groceries. It's all due to this spending in Washington, D.C. that needs to stop. And so we need to have our fiscal house in order. We're in the process of working on that. It's been a tough go getting things done, but hopefully we'll get on a better track for our country, and Congress needs to lead in this area. Secondly, I think some of the regulatory burdens, whether it's on farms or small businesses, that's really discouraging job growth and opportunities for Michiganders, and we need to do better on that front as well.
Let's go back to inflation. Things aren't as expensive as they were a couple years ago. My milk, my eggs, my gas, not nearly as bad. I think the Inflation Reduction Act made a huge role in that, or do you not believe in that?
I don't believe that. Okay. I do think things are getting better, and I'm encouraged by that, but they're still too high. And when you look at what they're getting in their paycheck versus what they used to be able to buy, it's night and day. And so I think we've still got a lot more work to do to limit spending. The Inflation Reduction Act was the name of the bill. It didn't really reduce inflation. In fact,
I don't know about that. I think it did. I think globally we all went through an inflation. I think America is one of the best countries to tackle that. So what am I missing?
Well, much of that bill was to promote green energy, and a lot of that bill hasn't even been implemented yet. So I think it would be premature in some respects to say that it reduced inflation. But what it did do is offered tax credits for green energy production. And one of the concerns I've had is that those tax credits could actually go to benefit companies that are based in China, Russia, Iran, North Korea. And so I've introduced a bill that actually would prevent American taxpayer dollars from going to adversarial countries like those, because ultimately we shouldn't be paying for those businesses located in those countries.
Well, coming up next on the Rundown, we're going to have the second part of Jorma's interview with Congressman Moolenaar. They'll continue the conversation, starting with what's going on at the southern border and what can be done about it. Stay with us. We're back with the second part of Jorma's interview with Congressman John Moolenaar, who's running for re-election and who had a lot to say about GOP infighting and the crisis at the southern border.
I know one of your priorities also is border security. Tell me a little bit more, because why can't we figure it out?
Well, we should be able to figure it out. In fact, we have in the past figured it out, but this administration has chosen not to implement and enforce the law. It needs to be something where people, if there's a line, you don't have the people at the end of the line cutting in front of the people in the front of the line. Right. So there needs to be an orderly process, and you can't have that until the border is secure, because right now our policies are enriching the drug cartels that are making $10,000 a person coming across the border illegally. You know, women and children are being abused along the way, and it's just not a sustainable policy. So my goal would be, let's secure the border, have an orderly process, and then let's have an immigration system that really benefits the United States, with people who want to come here and pursue the American dream.
A Republican majority in the House. Didn't really seem like you guys were together at all. You even ousted one of your
noticed
top
that.
guy. Yeah. So how do we fix that? Why would I want to vote for you and
sure.
try to get that House Republican majority?
It's a very fair question. You know, we have the slimmest Republican majority ever in the history of Congress, and unfortunately, we haven't been working well together as a team. And losing the Speaker for 3 weeks didn't help. I do believe under Mike Johnson's leadership, we're going to come together as a party. I think we're going to get our appropriations bills done. We have passed legislation to secure the border. We have passed legislation to support parents' rights. We've done a lot of good things.
Well, I will say this too. The old, we've never been more divided than ever. How do we not be divided anymore? Like, what can you do? What do you hope to see?
Well, you know, thank you for asking, because I do think that's a central issue for our country. I have strong convictions on different policy, but will always work with Democrats, Republicans, or whoever can work together to get the job done.
Well, I appreciate you being here and talking with us.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, to the race for president now. As Donald Trump gave a victory speech in New Hampshire Tuesday night, Nikki Haley said she's not going anywhere, at least until after the South Carolina primary next month. Our Washington correspondent Jesse Tenor reports.
We'll see you on the trail.
As far as Donald Trump is concerned, he's already the GOP nominee for president after beating Nikki Haley in New Hampshire's Republican primary Tuesday.
She had a very bad night.
But on Wednesday, Haley made it clear she's staying put in the race, at least until after the primary in her home state of South Carolina next month.
If Joe Biden wins, you can count on a President Kamala Harris, and we can't promise Donald Trump will win.
But Trump's New Hampshire victory is winning him more Republican support in Congress for November's general election.
More and more people are coming on board. I think him being the nominee at this point is virtually certainty.
Senators Eric Schmidt and Rick Scott had previously endorsed Trump, arguing his record cements his spot as the GOP presidential candidate.
When you run against him, what are you going to run on? Do you have a better plan to secure the border or build a better economy or keep us out of war?
President Joe Biden said Wednesday at a campaign event that Trump's record is precisely why Americans should vote Democrat.
He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who lost jobs when he was president.
South Carolina's Democratic primary is February 3rd, while the Republican primary is February 24th. In Washington, I'm Jesse Tenor.
President Joe Biden picked up a helpful, if not unexpected, endorsement Wednesday from the United Auto Workers Union.
UAW family, today I'm proud to stand up here with your International Executive Board and announce that the UAW is endorsing Joe Biden for President of the United States.
At a fiery speech at an event in Washington, UAW President Shawn Fain said the president has earned the union's support.
This time, in Belleville, Michigan. And I'll say I was so damn proud to stand in that picket line with you. It's not the first UAW picket line I stood in my home state of Delaware. I've done it many times. But it's the first time a president did it, I found out later.
Well, speaking about the differences between President Biden and former President Donald Trump, Fain said, rarely as a union do you get so clear of a choice between two candidates. Coming up next, Monday was the anniversary of the Supreme Court ruling that protected abortion rights for women here in America until it was overturned by the High Court. We'll tell you what Michigan politicians were saying about it at events held in the state last week. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Monday marked 51 years since Roe v. Wade, the landmark Supreme Court ruling that constitutionally protected abortion rights. But that ruling was overturned by the Supreme Court in 2022. In Michigan, however, the right to reproductive health care is now enshrined in the state constitution. On Monday, the governor and other abortion rights supporters spoke at various events in the state.
National ban is what they are talking about. This issue is supported by the vast majority of Americans. Americans of all political parties know that the decision about whether and when to bear a child should only be made by a woman, her loved ones, and her medical professionals.
For their part, abortion rights opponents think that protections have gone way too far. Well, if you are interested in getting more political news from Michigan and Washington, we've got just the thing for you. You can sign up for a Capitol Rundown newsletter. It's just one email each week, and you can get it by pointing your cell phone camera at the screen right now. This will take you to the sign-up page, or you can head to WLNS.com/newsletter. And that's our show for this week. Thanks for watching the Capitol Rundown. We'll see you again right here next week.